cannoli talk. We got a little bit from Jordan Davis. Yeah, I mean, people are gonna love the kid. He's really smart. He's really intelligent, and he's a really good football player. That's the most important part. Um, and that's where all the excitement lies. You talk about all the additions, both rookies, both veterans. Hassan Reddick's another guy who wasn't there. The Eagles really added a lot of talent in this offseason, but I think, as strange as it sounds, and I'm not trying to say he's better, but I think because of the fit in what he means and what he could bring to the Eagles defense, I think Jordan Davis might be the most important addition of all.
You got the Mac and Mac duo here, John McMullen and Jody McDonald with you on Birds 365. The countdown on to Eagles practice week 2, OTA week 2, limited drills week 2. Let's be honest, it is what it is. 6 practices over the course of this off season before we get to camp. The camp will get here at some point. The season will get here 97 days from now, and we're trying to break it down for you as best we can through many different lenses. One of which was the one that I kept abreast of this weekend, John McMullen's writings on JAKIB our new team website that John is writing stuff for almost on a daily basis, day in and day out, and got a chance to put some opinions down about the Eagles that you saw this weekend. So make sure you get to JAKIBsports.com during the day after Birds 365 is over for what Johnny Mac is adding on what the Birds are doing. And I did see there and on Twitter, we know that the rookies have to show up for this stuff. A whole bunch of veterans were no shows, at least on Friday when you guys were allowed in. How many were there earlier in the week, we'll never know, or they're not about to tell us. But we know the rookies are going to be there. And Jordan Davis opened some eyes, not only with his play, and you can only show so much playing defensive line in 7-on-7s and no real hitting or physical pushing. So it's kind of more speculation than anything else. But this kid's got a lot of personality that Eagle fans are going to like, huh, J Mac?
Yeah, really does. Cannoli talk. We got a little bit from Jordan Davis. Yeah, I mean, people are going to love the kid. He's really smart. He's really intelligent. And he's a really good football player. That's the most important part. And that's where all the excitement lies. You talk about all the additions, both rookies, both veterans. Hassan Reddick's another guy who wasn't there. The Eagles really added a lot of talent in this offseason. But I think, as strange as it sounds, and I'm not trying to say he's better, but I think because of the fit in what he means and what he could bring to the Eagles defense, I think Jordan Davis might be the most important addition of all. I really believe that because he's sort of like the defensive version of what I think A.J. Brown's going to be to the offense, the final piece of the puzzle that allows everything else to fall into place. In other words, we were just talking about Martin with the receivers are set, and how quickly that changes. It's really just one guy, and everything else just falls into place. And you start to say, if Devontae Smith's your number one, and you know how much I like Devontae Smith, Jody, but if he's your number one, you still have some questions. Well, is he ready? Is he up there with the true number ones in the world? He's still a young receiver. Now he's sort of the 1A, as A.J. Brown described him as both ones. And then you're like, wow, that's pretty good. And Quez Watkins is a 2. You're like, I don't think he's ready for that. But Quez Watkins is a 3. That's okay. That's pretty good. And on down the depth chart. On the defensive side of the ball with Jordan Davis, it's more of guys can play where they're comfortable now. Because, they always had Javon Hargrave trying to play 0 or 1 technique and trying to stop the run. Didn't work. Fletcher Cox doesn't work. That's not what they do well. And then you had the 4-eye and the 5 techniques, and the Ryan Kerrigans of the world and the Josh Sweats. I mean, Josh Sweat should be a weak side pass rusher, an overhang player, as Jonathan Gannon calls him, not wasting his talents at 4I or 5. Well, at times they had to do that last year. Because of the presence of Jordan Davis, in theory, they won't have to do that. So if he turns out to be what we think he's going to be, it's going to be really, really important for the Eagles. And then you got the personality and the intelligence and on top of it, it's a home run. He's potential home run pick for this team.
All right. You did say in the first segment, Nakobe Dean running with the third team linebackers that rookies kind of need to earn the advancement on the depth charts for the team. The way you're talking up Jordan Davis, sounds to me like he's going to play more snaps than everybody else at defensive tackle for the Eagles this year.
No,
what kind of percentage
no.
are you talking about him playing, J-Mac, if he can have this kind of an effect?
No, it's not about the percentage. And really, it's about first and second down. And I talked about this with Dan Cilio when he had me on his show, National Football Show, JAKIB Media, JAKIBSports.com. To start, he's going to be a 2-down player. And I know people say, well, you can't take a 2-down player with the 13th.
All right, hold on. Let me stop you there. If he's a 2-down player, who's out of Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, who becomes a 1-down player?
It's going to be pretty much a 3-man rotation. I think the bigger question is, who are the 4 rushers going to be on third and long? That's the bigger question. It's going to be Hassan Reddick. Is it going to be Brandon Graham or Josh Sweat? The other one is probably going to be Josh Sweat. Is Brandon Graham going to be kick inside? Is it going to be Brandon Graham and Javon Hargrave? Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox? It's going to be Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. These are the old good problems to have type situations that defensive coordinators like. But the presence of Jordan Davis, and this is where it all fits in, you're not in 3rd and 2. 3rd and 2, you can't use your NASCAR package. You can't have the 4 pass rushers on the field. They might run the ball. They might, and that's where you get into these convoluted 4I, 5, trying to stop the run, which the Eagles couldn't do. And too often they were in 3rd and short. And it was easy for opposing quarterbacks, especially those veteran quarterbacks. If Jordan Davis is what we think he is as a run stuffer, and to me, that's his floor as a player. His floor is, I don't want to call him Vita Vea, but that's the name I compare him to because people will recognize him. If he's that type of player, and all of a sudden people can't run on you on first and second down, and they're sitting there in 3rd and 8, or even if it's 3rd and 10, and they're behind the sticks, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, all of a sudden opposing quarterbacks have issues. And if it's 3rd and 12, and you have Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox pinning their ears back, or Javon Hargrave, that's pretty difficult to deal with. And that's what I mean by all the pieces falling together. And on 3rd down, Jordan Davis isn't even on the field, but the pieces have fallen together because of his presence. So it's not about percentage of snaps. It's about his impact on the game.
You mentioned Brandon Graham a couple of times. He, of course, coming back from the major injury last year. Again, limited true test snaps that they're getting in 7 and 7. So you're just kind of looking at the way the guy is moving on the field. How Brandon Graham look?
Well, he's not on the field 7 on 7. So he's just doing individual and technique stuff. But he looks completely healthy, completely explosive. And we got to talk to Brandon. He is in really good shape. So he took his time off and working in his rehab very, very seriously. His upper body, and he's always been in tremendous shape as far as the explosion. And, they call it old man strength in football. That's the one thing about rookies. They're especially on the offensive line, you know, they always got to get stronger because they're facing these NFL players. And Brandon's in that category. He is just a bull of the only question to me with Brandon Graham is he's 34 and he's coming off an Achilles. Is he going to have that same explosiveness as a player he once had? And we're not going to know that until the pads come on. I say that all the time. The pad positions, offensive line, defensive line, even running back to a certain degree, you get to see Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott and Miles Sanders as pass receivers, but not as runners. Linebackers, too, you get to see them in pass coverage, but not in run support. You don't get to find out that stuff until the pads come on. And that's just the way it is. Can't practice physicality if you don't do anything physical.
Exactly. That's why I just asked you to see how you thought he was moving around the field, because there really aren't ways that you can get a look at him until camp opens up. But since he's going to be out there, you want to at least have an opinion on how the rehab has gone for a guy who could be key, like Brandon Graham could be for them this year. All right. Do want to ask you about one other guy we've been debating him here for the last couple of weeks. We ask almost every single guest. I don't think we asked Martin when we had him on. But all of our Eagle guys to speculate on the right guard position for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I read our guy Reuben Frank's latest 10 topics on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and he broke it down pretty succinctly. He said, for me, it's really easy. Isaac Seumalo will either be the starting guard or he will be cut by the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if I believe that. I know that the Eagles would get some salary cap flexibility if they let him go. I don't think there's any way. And they've got good depth on the offensive line, so it wouldn't be, oh, my God, what the hell are the Eagles thinking about? But I just think it would be a imperfect calculation. I think Seumalo's got good football left in him. I know he's an injury waiting to happen these last couple of years, but I think he's going to be the starting right guard. I don't think there's any way the Eagles are going to cut him. John, this time of year, it gets a little bit more difficult to make trades because other teams are just getting peeks at guys. These 7-on-7 practices, certain positions, you're not even capable of learning anything. Give me a percentage chance the Philadelphia Eagles are going to cut Isaac Seumalo.
5%.
Yeah.
I get where Ruben's thinking that. He's really expensive. So the thought process is if you're not going to win the starting job, they're not going to pay you that to be the backup. But Isaac is a little bit more unique than most backups because we talk about versatility all the time. He legitimately, no bull bleep, can play all 5 positions if you need him to. And there are very, very few people who can do that. So his value, even as a backup for 1 year, even though that's really, really expensive for a typical backup player that can play, maybe an interior backup or a swing tackle, that's, then they cut him. But he can play. He already did it. He played every position in college, ironically, except left guard. Where he started for the Eagles for all those years. He started at right tackle as a rookie for the Eagles. He was a backup tight end for the Eagles when they went to 13 personnel. This guy can play anywhere. Stoutland would say all the time his best position is probably center because he's so smart. So I do think ultimately, even if they said, you know what, Jack Driscoll was so good last year. He's so young. He's got such an upside. We're going to just put him there because he's going to be there long term. Even if they made that decision, I think they would bite the bullet and say, we'll play out the year with Isaac. He gives us great depth. We'll pay him that. And the only way they would get rid of him is if they could get trade and value back for him. And maybe that happens in training camp when people start getting injured and somebody has a real need. Maybe that becomes a more viable position. I don't think they're going to cut Isaac. I don't. I think he's too valuable. And, Lane Johnson wasn't there. And Isaac started, it's just individual drills. But Isaac started at right guard, and Jack Driscoll moved over to right tackle. So it's going to be like last year with Andre Dillard. They're going to default to Isaac Seumalo. He's going to get every opportunity to win the job. I get what Ruben is saying. If he doesn't win it, you don't want to pay that money to a backup. But I think Isaac's versatility kind of changes that equation at least a little bit.
And here's the reason why I think he's going to be the starting right guard for the Eagles. Certainly all the reasons that you just gave, but there's one more to add to it. Know that Jack Driscoll's the head coach is a fan of Jack Driscoll, and Sirianni has been willing to heap praise on top of Driscoll for what he's done and what they think he can do in the future. Lane Johnson was one of the veterans who was not there this week. As far as we know, Lane is 100% healthy and ready to go, and he's a Pro Bowl level talent, even at this now advanced stage of his career. I don't see much of a drop off from Lane in whatever you believe was his best season to what he put on the field last year. I'm not trying to shortchange Lane Johnson a little bit, but he kind of, like Isaac, misses games, varying reasons. He's not in the lineup. You don't just pen him in for 17 games at the start of any season. So he's going to miss time during this upcoming season if you're being very objective about who you're going to be able to count on for the offensive line. Who's their best backup right tackle, Johnny Mac?
Jordan Mailata.
Would you do that? If you're in charge, if you're and they lean on their offensive line coach very heavily, are you going to move Jordan Mailata from the left tackle to over the right side to fill in for Lane Johnson? Or do you, if you're going so far as to say Jordan Mailata and Dickerson are so good on the left side, we don't want to fool with them. Even though Dickerson has not been a left guard before he did it this past year for the Eagles, he's been more of a center on the right side. But they got put together because of injuries on the left side, and it was so good we can't even think about touching them. Oh, unless, of course, we need to move Jordan Mailata to the other side. Not me. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, they did it last year, but it's interesting. Isaac's presence prevents you from having to do it this year because even if he's the backup, you can put him in at right guard and kick out Driscoll from right guard to right tackle. So it's nice to have these options. It'll come down to what Stout thinks is his best. Is Andre Dillard better than Isaac Seumalo at that point? In other words, if Dillard and Isaac Seumalo are your backups, your top backups.
Yeah, you really do think Driscoll's going to start over Isaac?
Do I think? Yeah. I think he's got a chance. I put the odds.
Well, I think just the way you just described it was, John, you're going to put in Isaac and kick Driscoll out to right tackle.
No, I said even if you start Driscoll, I said Seumalo's presence Dipper changes things from last year because last year the Eagles moved Jordan Mailata to right tackle and inserted Andre Dillard. I said Isaac's presence, even if he's a backup, could change that because if Driscoll's starting at right guard, you could just put in Isaac Seumalo at right guard, kick it Driscoll to right tackle, and keep Jordan at left tackle. That comes down. That's a decision of who do you think is the best player at that particular time. Do you want Andre Dillard on the field? If you want Andre on the field, you're going to have to kick Jordan Mailata over. You're not taking Jordan off the field. So it really comes down to that. But it gives you this versatility. That's kind of what I was talking about, why Isaac's not going to get cut, even if he loses the starting job, because he gives you so many more layers of versatility. If all the injuries, if he's there, it changes the whole equation. So it's nice to have all these different pieces. And the fact that Jordan can play right tackle, Jack Driscoll can play right tackle, and they can play it at a competent level. I mean, there's a lot of teams that don't have one right tackle. The Eagles have 3 legitimate right tackles. That's pretty stinking good. And
Right.
by the way, Isaac could play right tackle in a pinch. Throw that in there as well.
They've got very good offensive line depth. Assuming health for everybody, who's going to be the Eagles' opening day starting right tackle?
Right guard or right tackle. Right guard. I think tackle. Isaac. I think it's about. I think Zach Berman put it about 60%. I would put it at 55, a little bit less. I'd say 55-45. Isaac in the lead.
Gotcha. All right. We're going to take a quick time out here on Birds 365. We hope to be joined by our buddy Chris Landry. Does a great job whenever he comes on with us. Former college NFL coach and scout. Still does work for teams around the National Football League draft season and the like. His website, LandryFootball.com, is something all NFL fans should be checking out. Chris Landry scheduled to join us next here on Birds 365.